I looked back at my old art recently and thought, damn, this is actually kinda good. Even though when I was drawing it at the time, I thought it was the worst drawing of my life. Art is a never-ending learning process, so it's only natural for an artist's style to evolve over time. For me specifically, I loved dark art back then. I liked emo and edgy stuff, I liked things that were unsettling, I just liked anything that just had a dark vibe in general. You wouldn't guess that my art was dark as hell back then, considering that my art looks like this now, but to be honest, I still do those type of art. It's still my favorite. It's just that I just want to push my boundaries and try to go with colorful art, and so the colorful ones become my favorite pieces. Now, I don't really hate my art, but I feel like I was much more self-aware of what I wanted to have in my artwork. I felt like my old art had a better grasp on lighting, and I kind of had a better understanding of anatomy. I always complained how I drew just girls in generic poses, and because of it, I started to get bored of my art. So I wanted to take a more stylistic approach instead of leaning towards the semi-realism route, and that's how my art looks like today. But now I just want to go back to my roots. So let me see why I liked my old art back then. Looking back at my old art, I noticed that I used a lot of soft brushes, making my art look soft in general. Sadly, I do not have the recordings of these old drawings because I'm a dumb, stupid 14-year-old that accidentally deleted it in iCloud, and iCloud doesn't have a recovery trash bin in case you wanted it back some days. So now that's gone forever. But yeah, these soft brushes help me get a lot more definition on my figures when I draw them. Another thing I noticed was that I actually drew noses. I don't know why I don't draw noses anymore. These days I just draw 2 dots and color it and hope for the best. Next, I noticed I put more dimension in my old drawings. Like, I really took the time to define the shadows and the light a little bit more in my old drawings, and I still do in my new art, but it's not refined enough. And lastly, I felt like the line art was really blended with the actual art, and also I had realistic hair. I am terrible with line art, so I tried to avoid it as much as possible. Some days are good, some days are not, but my technique these days is just basically use a sketch and render over it and hope for the best. Now that that's settled, let's see how I draw now with my old art in mind. So this time lapse will be skipped just for time purposes. I want this video kind of to be short. So for the reference, I have Heron from New Jeans once again. She's just so pretty, okay. And I started off sketching with a very soft brush. And I think the soft brush really helps me because it defines some of the forms when I didn't really intentionally draw it. It's kind of like I'm sculpting, but in a 2D kind of way, if that makes sense. Then I put my base colors down and tried to put them in shapes. Then for the shadows and the light, I tried to use the lasso tool to restrict where I'm drawing them and try to have some hard edges and soft edges. Then I rendered on top of it and tried to maintain the hard and soft edges in the painting, but while still trying to get that soft look I had in my old art. And I think it looks fine. It's just that the anatomy looks weird the more I stare at it, like her eyes look more wonky when I keep staring at it. So now I don't want to stare at it anymore. Also, I spent like 2 hours on this when I was supposed to spend like 1 hour, so I didn't want to work on it anymore, so I'll just live with it. Alright, next one. I did 2 mini doodles on here. I took more of a painting approach and I layered the colors until it's opaque enough. I still utilized my soft brushes so I could have some soft effects into the doodle. And I used similar techniques that I used in the last drawing I did. Then my computer died.
What is wrong with you? Are we for real right now? Oh, you're working, but why aren't you working? Come on!
4 to 6 days later.
It took a while to fix. I just had to do a clean install, which means I lost everything, and now I had to reinstall everything. So this was a drawing after I tried to reinstall all my brushes onto my painting program. You can see so many test strokes in the beginning, and I kind of took more of a oil painting approach. I was just painting mindlessly and going with the flow. I mostly focused on the face, and honestly she kind of looks like an alien, but that's not the point of this drawing this time. And learning from this, I kind of like the shading I did on here the most. I think this was fine. And then I came across this painting that I saw on Pinterest. This is a Chinese artist, so I do not know the actual name or how to say it, but I will post it here. But I really liked how they painted their face. It's kind of like the style that I wanted when I was younger, so I wanted to learn from this. Again, I started sketching with a very soft brush. And for some reason, it kind of turned into me painting the sketch instead. So I kind of just went with the flow with that. Again, it's like before, I just pretty much sculpt by painting. I kind of like sketch painting more than actually sketching because I mostly use black when I sketch, and sometimes it looks weird for some reason. Like the lines are too bold for me, especially when I try to define the eyes. It feels so overwhelming. So when I do a paint sketch, the eyes are more of a gray color, so it makes it not as overwhelming, and it harmonizes well with the face and the rest of the painting, to be honest. It also helps because I can block in shapes and I don't have to worry about any line weights or where the line should go in the sketch. The only thing is I would just have to focus on where I am shading and putting the lights. Honestly, I should be doing this more. I don't know why I don't do this that often. And then once I finish the paint sketch, I start cleaning up the edges just to make it a little bit more cleaner and have some more defined features, especially on the eyes and the mouth. And I tried to render some areas as well. So I actually put a nose on her this time, and I wanted a little bit definition on the hair, and then I could proceed with the coloring. I was debating if I should just sketch it with the line art so I can color it, but I was like, I already have all this painting and I want to do it in under 1 hour, so I will just do it the way that concept artists do sometimes, which is using blending modes to color the painting. So I have a love-hate relationship by doing this technique. Sometimes I know what I'm doing, sometimes I don't, but I got it eventually. I just put the colors in where it felt right and erased where I didn't need the colors on. And once I felt fine with these colors, I will render on top of it and make the colors more harmonized. And this was the result. This last painting I did was probably my favorite one out of all the other drawings I did. Like, I guess my first one was just a warm-up for me. But overall, this type of style really made me happy. And now all I need to do is just make a background with these characters and try to tell a story with them, and then my life will be even more complete. I think it was just nice revisiting my old art and finding what I really liked back then. Do you guys look at your old art? Do you cringe at it? For me, I kind of embraced it now because I know I could just redraw it with my new skills now. Also, I have new prints in the shop in my Etsy. If you guys are interested in looking at anything, go give it a look. And that's the end of the video. Thank you and goodbye.